This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen.
Imagine a conspiracy theory so crazy,
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
so believable,
They're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found
that it started a riot. Like that has ever happened. Now imagine you're a French citizen in the 18th century, prior to the French Revolution. Chances are you're a farmer, and you're starting to notice that your centuries-old farming methods are not keeping up with the growing population. At least your king gets to live in the majestic palace of Versailles, while the English king lives in the shabby Windsor castle. 1775 is when things start to turn. Your crop has not yet produced its yield when the grain storage runs out. Normally over half your pay goes to buying bread for your family, and now you can't even manage that. Not much of a parent if you can't feed your kids. Normally the federal government would step in and make sure all areas would get the grain they needed. Normally the king, known as the first baker of the kingdom, would never allow such a thing. Normally people would not genuinely fear starving to death. Normally. Instead of government intervention, you get rumors. Rumors from the clergy that the brand new king led his Controller General of Finance, Turgot, from their fancy pants palace stopped the government grain interventions for us regular people. Turgot believes with the government out of the way, the economy will improve, which will mean more bread for the people and more money for the government. You can't tell if the economy is improving, nor if the government is getting more money. But you can tell that you are out of bread, like those rich cats ever have to worry about empty stomachs. Small amounts of grain begin to make their way to your village. Finally, what you do get is low quantity, tastes like chalk, and costs more than 2.5 times what it should. Royal police would normally force a fair price on the greedy merchants and check grain purity, but not this year. Pamphlets start being spread that your hunger is on purpose, that the monsters in Versailles are working with the goblin merchants. Their plan is to decrease the grain supply by storing all the excess. The limited grain is then sold out at higher prices, so they still get their money, but the population shrinks from starvation, thus solving the population crisis while making a profit. The clergy tells us this is not so. Do not believe the lies. The first baker of the kingdom still wants all his citizens to be fed. Hard to believe a king wants to feed you, though, when your dinner plate is empty. One man decides to see if the rumors are true, and others start to join in. You join the mob and loot a local grain merchant's storage. To your horror, you find grain. Not the unimaginable amounts the pamphlets told you, but enough to help feed your village. You leave a fair amount of money with the profiteers, though, known as a popular taxation. You are not the monsters. Rumors again spread wild of similar riots and looting happening all across France. Not just in areas with bad crops, but in cities and areas with good harvests but high prices. The best rumor you hear is that King Louis XVI stopped the rioters outside Versailles by speaking to them from the balcony. Others say this did not happen, and in fact, the king and queen fled Versailles even though the rioters were after the royal grain storage, not the palace. Peace returned to your village on 2 fronts. First, the clergy told you that the government would again regulate the bread. You did not believe it until the second front, the soldiers showed, forcing everyone back to the old ways. We heard in Paris hundreds were arrested and 2 were executed. Not here, though. Here the people were pacified because they got their grain. For now. It's important to note here that no one is an idiot in this story. Just because they were in the past and poor doesn't make them stupid nor unnecessarily violent. Lack of reliable information made it easy for some beliefs to be twisted into a fight for the peasant's survival. Easier to believe the nobles you never see are trying to starve you out rather than the king appointed by God to protect you did a single bad policy that caused you to go hungry. Not true, but easy to believe. For Turgot's part, I blame him for the mess. An example of a man who is too trapped in his theories and his worldview rather than the reality of the people. Case in point, he thought the riots were a purposeful slight against his laissez-faire economic philosophy, and that people were pretending to be hungry despite him personally. Turgot could not be more detached from the farmers if he tried.